saying that last Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's episode. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in for a treat today. Normally we have some silly geese and whatever on here. Today we are blessed with the professional expert knowledge of an AI expert. I feel like it's a new field, and it's easy to grab that title. You can just become the king of AI.
Yeah.
Zach Wilcoxen, what's the name of your business?
Pretect.
Yep. Pretect in Austin, Texas. Thank you for joining the podcast.
Happy to be here. I'm excited.
Yeah, man. We are in a cult together in Austin called Networking Austin. Shout out. And one day we were talking after breakfast. We probably talked for like 45 minutes just about AI. And it's something that I think everybody, they hear AI and they're like, oh, robots are taking over. Everything's happening right now.
Absolutely.
And you use it, like it made me go home instantly, buy ChatGPT 4 and just start diving into it.
Well, I'm glad I can have that influence.
Yeah. How do people need to be worried about this actually taking over?
I mean, there's definitely concerns.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that, iRobot or anything like that crazy is going to happen where, the robots are going to be taking over the world, but AI can absolutely be used for good and it can be used for bad. So I don't think there's too much to worry about right now, but it is something. I mean, Musk is one to call for regulation around AI because he definitely thinks that, things can go awry, and it is possible.
Yeah.
We're in an interesting time because AI is constantly evolving. Yesterday, OpenAI announced a new model that they have trained. It's not open to the public yet. It's basically just behind closed doors and a few trusted creators. But it's called Sora, and you're able to create through prompts very similar to ChatGPT. You're able to create full-blown productions. So I think it would be pretty intriguing for you to check out that you can use to your advantage, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't. The way I view AI is that it's a tool to help you in whatever field or whatever you may be doing. But seeing a tool like that, where a year ago there was a video of Will Smith eating spaghetti, and it was like an AI fake, right?
Yeah.
And you could tell so clearly that it was not real.
Yeah.
The stuff that I saw on Sora yesterday when they announced it looks real. If you don't have a trained eye and you're not looking specifically for certain things, it's almost indistinguishable from reality. That can be pretty scary, because if people were to get things if that got into the wrong hands and they're able to, now they're training the model, just to be clear, they're training the model so that you can't use people's likeness. But that doesn't mean that somebody can't reverse engineer and use this similar kind of model outside of that to do that.
Yeah.
And that can be scary in a year like this year where we have an election coming up. I think that people... there's been a lot of misinformation in the past, and I don't think that that's going to slow down with AI. I think it's just going to make that problem worse. So to your point, do people need to be scared? No, but be conscious of the fact that there's going to be a lot of AI generated content, and to be conscious of the fact that what you're seeing may not really be reality.
That literally sounds like the intro to a Twilight Zone episode. Being like, what you see from here on out might not be reality.
That's true.
And just like putting the idea of we're engineering this to not use likeness is almost like just being like, we're building this gun, but don't shoot anybody with it. But it's like, I feel like it's just a matter of time before it's completely reverse engineered. It's almost like going into the future, you have to now just accept that you can believe nothing for now unless you see it with your eyes.
That's a safe assumption, honestly. I feel like the internet is, AI is already super prevalent.
Yeah.
But the thing is, every day that you see artificial intelligence, that's the worst artificial intelligence is ever going to be.
Oh.
So like to think about where we were a year ago with these videos and using AI to create that to where we are now in just 1 year, it's going to be a pretty wild ride to see how this all changes over the course of the next 5 to 10 years.
With the amount of stuff that you see on social media there's so much. I don't know if you ever saw that movie. I forgot the name was. It was about social media and just how damaging, like the dopamine release that happened.
The Social Dilemma.
The Social Dilemma. Yeah. I knew you would know the name. I'm like, this dude just has it. When you start seeing stuff like that and how important it is for people to stay off social media, I feel like the pull is only going to get stronger and more intense with what you need that hit of dopamine to even, where does the balance, do you think, do we hit a balance of not connecting to technology, or do we just go full speed into it and we become the generation that thought it was okay to like smoke cigarettes all the time and on planes and indoors?
Yeah, that's a good question. I do think that there needs to be balance and I do think that regulation around AI needs to happen. And I think that's kind of where that balance is going to have. Now, as far as people on social media and seeking that dopamine, I think that's a slippery slope that I don't think is going to change anytime soon. I think that it can be an addiction, and as all addictions can be, you can kind of slip into that, and you're just looking for more. My advice is to try to find time to disconnect from technology as often as you can, and go on a hike somewhere, go on a trip, and just try to go camping or something to disconnect and find some dopamine that way, and try to break the day-to-day doom scrolling on social media.
With you being so involved with it, with just tech in general, for your business, do you make it a point? Do you even look at technology as a consumer, or are you basically looking at things almost like ones and zeros of this is just tech that I utilize rather than I consume?
I am an avid consumer of technology. When I get my day started, my blinds are motorized and connected to Alexa, so that I can just say start my day, and then it tells me my calendar events and starts the coffee maker and opens the blinds.
You're Iron Man, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, pretty much. Don't have as many cool gadgets, but it's I definitely consume a lot of technology, but because of that, I do feel it is important for me to try to disconnect as often as I can, really. So last week when I was in Utah, I wanted to get on the mountain and spend some time in nature, because I feel like it is important, because otherwise it's so easy to get consumed by it all.
Yeah. So do you sleep with like your phone next to the bed, or are you a outside of the room person? Are you?
I have do not disturb mode on, but it is next to my bed.
Okay.
Yeah. I try not to, like, when it's bedtime though, it's bedtime. I try not to be scrolling, but it's hard sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just so much to see on the internet, and it's constantly changing. So
there's always the talk with AI about, and we were on ChatGPT before the podcast, and you were just showing me stuff that it can do that I have no idea. It's barely scratching the surface, and I'll probably only ever use 5 to 10% of its capability. I just feel like there's so much it can do. It's replacing what feels like a lot of jobs.
Sure.
And there is always the talk of, it's replacing white collar jobs now with its analyst ability and everything like that. Do you think this is going to be, aside from just being something that can trick people with all the doom idea of it, is it going to be something that can replace a lot of these white collar jobs? And what do we do with that?
So right now, I think the answer to that is no, because AI right now it requires these prompts, right? So it is only as effective as the human being behind it using and leveraging it as a tool. So I think that it will undoubtedly replace jobs. And this is not one of those like hashtag learn to code kind of things, because even artificial intelligence can, and we talked a little bit about that. I'm using it to build an application. I have minor developing skills, but leveraging ChatGPT, I'm able to build a full-blown application. So, all the developers that have studied hard to be where they're at, there are going to be jobs that do get fully replaced. But what I think is going to happen is that artificial intelligence is just going to be a tool that people use in their day-to-day life. And that's why even with you, I was saying, like, it doesn't matter what you're doing, you can leverage AI to make what you're doing better. And so it's not replacing you, it's just enhancing and increasing your efficiency. So to your question about replacing white collar jobs, I think that it's just going to make them more efficient. I think that what it will have a side effect of eliminating some jobs, because due to increased efficiency, you just don't need as much of a workload. Like, for instance, the data analyst that we were kind of looking at, you don't need to have a human go and write Excel formulas anymore, because you can just throw it into ChatGPT and say whatever it is you want to do with that document, and it will do it all for you and spit you back out the results. My wife's business, we used it to take all the hashtags that she's ever used on her Instagram page, put it into ChatGPT, had it analyze it to find out which hashtags we were using most often, and of those hashtags, which ones got the most engagement. So then we were able to tweak our social media platform to be more effective based on the results that we got through AI. And if we were to hire a marketing firm to do that, it would have been pretty expensive. We still have a need for a marketing firm, so it's not like we're replacing those jobs, but we're becoming more efficient through the use of artificial intelligence. Yeah.
Wow. And you just did that with the data analyst by like putting her profile in and being like, analyze this profile to see.
We extracted the hashtags from the post and put it into I think it was like a Word document. And then we gave the Word document to ChatGPT, had it analyze it, and then spit us back out the results in an Excel spreadsheet. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I think you're right that it is going to be something that does enhance. I mean, it enhances my personal business. It did. I mean, I think I told you this that day where I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to like put some jokes into it and see what it can do with jokes. First of all, ChatGPT was like, no, this joke is not okay. We don't support racism. I was like, whoa, ChatGPT. But it seems like there are, and you gave me a workaround. You were like, hey, let's, cosplay this or kind of pretend this is something. It did actually give me new angles of jokes. And it was like, and it broke down the structure of jokes and everything. So there's so much that you can get from it. There has been, and this is my question, where people with ChatGPT, especially for like Dolly or like an image generator, even I think Midjourney, which is another AI image generator, when you start asking for certain things, and comedians have always done this or started doing a podcast where like, make a joke about this and this, is it pulling that information from jokes that are already out there? Because that's where you start the like artistic integrity start hitting some interesting places.
Yeah. That's a great point and a good question. It is pulling from the plethora of information that we have built over the course of 30 years on the internet. So that is where it's training that model from. Yeah. So anything that it comes up with was either an idea or a spin-off of an idea that has occurred before. Right. So yes, it is possible that if there's a particular comedian that is very popular and the jokes are super publicized, then when it is trying to come up with jokes that you're trying to have it come up with, it has a lot of data based on that comedian, and it could, I don't want to say plagiarize, but it could come up with something similar because that was what it was basing its thought process off of.
Interesting. Yeah, that's the one thing, because I felt like when I started using it, was like, I can't use this to write jokes. I can't just pull what it gives me.
Yeah.
But even just using it as a tool of like, what are some current topics that are like, just to get the juices flowing,
Exactly.
of like trending data and stuff like that. Even being like the data analyst, I put in there, what are the most, the kind of jokes that people resonate with the most? Like, I'm like curious.
Sure.
And it will start giving you, be like, these kind of jokes resonate because of blah, blah, blah. People, vicarious experiences and things like that. So it just like gives you good nuggets, almost the way you would look at a more established comedian and be like, hey, what should I write about? Or
Right.
what about this?
That's a perfect way to use it, by the way. And that's that giving
Thank
you
God.
giving you ideas and using it to just kind of put yourself in the mindset of the people that you're trying to tell jokes to, and how can you resonate best with them?
Yeah. There is a lot, and a lot of comedians talk about the idea of, jobs going away and everything. A lot of people feel that live performance comedy is going to be one of the last things to go. I feel like and that's what is interesting about everything with AI, because I don't know if you're a Kanye West fan. Big Ye fan?
And I'm not a big Ye fan.
Okay.
No,
All right. But what is happening, even with like Eminem fan?
Yes.
Okay. Let's go. There's been these AI generated songs with their likeness.
Yep.
And they're almost indistinguishable.
Yeah, I've heard some of those. It's crazy.
It's mind blowing that you can create a prompt, write a song about this, sounding like this artist, and use this kind of beat. And then it will generate you a song that's almost like it just sounds like maybe Eminem was feeling a little bit lazy that day. It's a little generic but like it's still him.
Yeah.
And it leads you down a path where it's like, okay, AI is going to be able to do basically, remember that shitty Tupac they did before when they did a hologram of Tupac?
Yep.
Now they're going to do one that is 4K, that is like, you can't tell that's not them on stage.
Exactly.
I think there's like these online girls that are already doing live performances that are just like selling out arenas, and it's just like a AI girl. They're going to be able to do that with music, with movies. I mean, what is the name of the thing that you just said yesterday?
Sora. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, so do you think that those art forms are going to get just completely, I don't know, not washed away, but they're going to feel the effects of it?
Yeah. I think it's definitely going to augment how performances are done. But I think that fundamentally as humans, we seek and desire human connection.
Right.
So whether it's stand-up comedy or you're going to a concert, you want to see the actual creator. You're there to like see the person. So for me, I would go to one of those AI shows if it was like a hologram, just because I think it's intriguing. But I wouldn't. That wouldn't be. It's not as fulfilling as actually being there with someone.
Yeah.
Or if you grew up listening to Eminem, if you get to see Eminem in concert, it wouldn't be the same if you're just like going to listen to music and like you're seeing a hologram of him. That doesn't do it for people. I think that people go to concerts because they want the energy of that person. They go to stand-up comedy because you get that energy, and the deliverability I think is huge. So I think that again, it's going to change just about everything, but I don't think it's going to replace those things anytime soon. But again, to your point, because I actually listened to one of those Eminem songs that was done, and at first when I listened to it, I was like, it did. You said it best. It sounds like he was maybe a little tired that day, but it definitely sounded like Eminem. And at first, I was fooled and thought that it was.
You're like, he dissed 50 Cent? What the hell's happening, dude? Exactly. They were brothers.
So I think that well, to back up a little bit, this is the worst AI is ever going to be. And we've really been having these AI conversations for the last year and a half, 2 years, when ChatGPT really hit. Now, AI has been around for a long time. There's been people trying to get it moving, but the large language models that we see today have just really come out in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So as they continue to train and we get to ChatGPT 5 and beyond, those kind of things are going to be indistinguishable. And Post Malone actually talked a little bit about this because he thinks like that AI is going to take over, and it's definitely going to help. Well, it's going to create more content. It is going to give people ideas, and it may do some of the content creation for whether it's videos, audio, beats, lyrics. All of those things are things that will be augmented. But at the end of the day, that artist is still the people that are who they want to see. So when you go to, say, a Post Malone concert, even if he created his songs with AI, you still want to see Post Malone. You still want to see Eminem.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't think that those jobs are going to be threatened.
Yeah.
Again, I just think it's going to be augmented. It's going to help people be creative. I think we're going to see a whole lot more books. I think that people have these ideas in their head of stories that they want to write, or they get inspired by reading Harry Potter as a kid.
Right.
But they're not authors, but they have an idea. Well, if you take that idea, put it into ChatGPT, and it can help you write and flush out those ideas, there's going to be a lot more publications, and who knows what kind of cool stuff that we don't know about yet because it's just sitting in somebody's mind, and it's just going to take AI to flush it out to make it a reality.
Such a great point. Dude, it'd be nice to have someone rewrite Game of Thrones, dude. To figure out that
At least the ending, right?
Yeah. But that's a great point about the human connection. Because, I mean, that's probably why things like Cameo are so big. Because people want a personalized, connection with that person rather than I bought you an autograph from this person. But it's like, no, I got you this personalized video where this person's connecting with you.
Yeah.
It's interesting because it's such a weird balance that humans are with being these tribal animals. Like we're so animalistic and just like lizard brains and have so much things that are happening that are just built into us. And then we also now have this super intelligent, like the technology that we're wielding.
Yeah.
And I think that while we're creating all these amazing things, it's so obvious in some ways that we're still just animals. Like when you look at, there's always the jokes on the internet about how we've created this magical device that answers any question in the world. We must be so futuristic with space travel and everything. And like 98% of the content is like porn on the internet. Yeah. And it's just like, we're true. Still just fulfilling the animal side of ourselves. Yeah. Let's see, what's this? Do you think that, let me ask you this. Do you think that there's any warrant? Like, do you feel like people's first reaction is fear of AI? And is it just because, do you think the media has something to do with that?
Yeah. Oh gosh, the media. I do. And I also, yes, I think that the initial response to AI is fear because you hear the media saying they're going to take our jobs but also I think that comes from a fundamental lack of understanding of AI because if you really delve into AI, you can understand its promises and you can understand its limitations.
Yeah.
So, I think that if more, and this is why I'm always telling people, in our business, we spend a significant amount of money on software, but hands down, the most value I get out of anything that we pay for is the $20 a month that I spend on ChatGPT, because it just really pushes the bar forward.
Yeah.
So I'm always telling people, just give it a shot, and also. The way I kind of look at this at AI is that right now, AI and ChatGPT, this is AOL saying you've got mail. This is like the very beginning of the internet. It is so much in its infancy think about where we were back then when I don't know who remembers the dial-up sound of trying to get onto the internet.
Yeah.
But you log on and there's just a few web pages, but you're like, wow, this could change the world. That's where we're at now with ChatGPT and artificial intelligence. So fast forward 20 years from now, what does the world look like? How much is it going to change? It's undoubtedly going to change. And who now doesn't use the internet? There were a lot of people early on that were very hesitant and didn't really understand the internet. There was some fear around it. But now everybody is using the internet.
Yeah.
So I think that instead of trying to fight AI, because AI will win, embrace it. Find a way to integrate with AI. And to that point, there are more and more devices that are coming out that, because we all have our cell phones and we're kind of glued to them, but it is external to us. We have to grab that piece of technology and interact with it. There are more and more things coming out that allow us to do augmented reality, and artificial intelligence is absolutely going to integrate with that augmented reality. So Apple just released a new product called the Vision Pro, which is, they call spatial computing, because Apple has to be special and not call it virtual reality or augmented reality, but let's call it what it is. It's virtual and augmented reality.
Yeah.
So having tools like that are able to overlay in your world. And I think that this version with the big bulky glasses and whatnot, I don't know that is going to be the end goal, but it's definitely like, it shows that we're starting to have those conversations and starting to integrate a little bit more with technology. And I think that's an inevitability.
Yeah.
Google Glass, I don't know if you remember that. That was a pretty cool, because they have a presence here in Austin. I had a couple buddies that had those, and it was pretty neat to have like this heads up display. But especially then, it was ahead of its time, and people were like, "Are you recording me?"
Yeah,
and there was a lot of privacy concerns and stuff like that, which continues to be a concern. But I think that in the long run, especially as younger generations who have grown up with this already, I don't think they're going to be as concerned with the privacy that older generations are concerned about. But it's definitely something we need to think about and address accordingly. But then you have Elon Musk doing Neuralink.
Yeah.
Where he's putting chips in people's brains, which they just recently had one of the first human implementations of Neuralink. And I think like the idea behind it is like, if somebody's paralyzed because their spine isn't able to take the electrical signals, this Neuralink is able to do that. So it is going to give people the ability to walk again. I mean, the possibilities are limitless when it comes to that, but I will not be an early adopter of that technology. I am not ready to put a chip in my brain. I'll put a Vision Pro on and play around with it and play around in augmented reality. But I do think that as we look forward 50, 100 years, I can see a technology like Neuralink, when it gets totally fleshed out, being something that's done. But then of course, like if everybody was a happy camper in the whole world, I would feel okay with that. But the thought of any kind of foreign entity being able to now hack our brains because we've got chips in our heads, that seems like a slippery slope to me. But
that's terrifying.
I think that right now it's an intriguing piece of technology that we're on the fringe of seeing how it could affect our livelihoods.
Yeah, it's interesting whenever you think about stuff like that. And I mean, putting chips in people's brains, like you're getting pretty sci-fi in reality, where It's like, what happens? Oh, like in the Matrix, where he downloads Kung Fu, like now you're going to be able to buy your education and be like, oh, I have this. And then there's free educations, and then there's misinformation, and there's miseducation. And it's like, oh, you bought a bootleg version of Kung Fu, and now you're like hitting yourself in the face.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it's like someone can hack in and shut your legs off. it literally was like there's a Trojan horse virus just waiting to be created for your brain.
Yep.
And then literally it becomes mind control. And then the government's like, you know what? We don't like the way you've been acting, you know?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen that movie with Justin Timberlake where it's a sci-fi and they have the time on their hand and they have to work? If you're poor, you don't have that much time and you have to go like check in and like, it's like a dystopian kind of only a poor and an upper class. There's no middle class. And it's like, you have to work and do all this stuff to earn time.
Interesting.
And he's like on the verge of always dying in one day. And that's how all the poor people are, is that they have to go like do these shitty jobs just to get time to live the next day. I just think of stuff like that. Like what you're saying is like, yeah, there's someone in the world that is going to try to find a way to misuse this.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Undoubtedly. I mean, if we're willing to go nuke people and have nukes, why wouldn't we have the ability to be like, oh, let's just turn their whole society off? Yeah,
exactly. I mean, that is... that's where like my fear comes in is those kind of things. Like, whatever World War III looks like, I think it's not going to be fought as much with planes and tanks. It's going to be fought with cyber warfare.
Yeah.
So if we're to the point where we have chips in our heads, I mean, that's a scary thought. Cause I mean, being in technology, I know that there are definitely malicious actors out there trying to do harm, and there will always be those people. We're never going to live in a world where that's not the case. So if somebody were to find a loophole in any one of those technologies or vulnerability, it's going to get exploited, undoubtedly.
And just so people know, your business is actually doing... It's like you're fighting malware and everything.
Exactly. So
you're on the front lines.
We're a managed IT service provider. So we become the IT department for small to medium-sized businesses and help them with everything from help desk to cybersecurity, consulting, road mapping, and everything in between. So, but on a day-to-day basis, we're just maintaining IT infrastructure.
Sorry to cut you off. That is the terrifying side of it. Do you think, how far off do you think we are from those kind of things happening with?
Well, especially are you, like with the Neuralink thing?
Yeah, Neuralink stuff and any of this stuff becoming reality. And actually, just to piggyback on what you said, like with World War III, I almost have an argument that World War III has already been going on.
I second that, yeah.
With misinformation and just... Like it's just like you look at the way the last wars were with, casualties and planes and bombs and guns, but it's like the next war, we're looking out for those things again, but it's like they've been slipping through the entire time.
Yeah.
And it's almost not even, I mean, you start seeing when there's all these deals going around internationally with, we're giving so much money to Ukraine. Why are we doing that? Oh, there's some weird Biden connection there and stuff. And it's like while we're focused on all that stuff, this other war has already been going on. And maybe the next generation will be like, okay, now we need to be ready for this war.
Yeah. I certainly hope so. I mean, I'm always trying to be as proactive as we can in IT. And I feel like a lot of times it feels like the government is kind of being a little bit more reactive. So I think that we definitely need to be in a mindset of what can happen, theoreticals, and be ready for that, especially when it comes to technology. Now, as far as like people hacking into Neuralink and taking over, I don't think that's happening anytime soon, because I don't think something like that is going to be mainstream. Because I mean, are you going to be putting a chip in your head at all in your life? Like, I don't know that like in the time that I have left that I'm ever going to be okay with like putting a chip in my head. As technology centric as I am, I just don't see a world that I'm going to be trusting enough to do that. So
where are all those people that got the Amazon thing? Did you ever see those where they like could pay for their Amazon thing by putting a chip in their arm?
Or was it a chip?
Was it? It was some kind of implant.
Amazon has a couple things up in Seattle, which is kind of where they're based. They have these Amazon Go stores, which I had to go check out while I was up there.
Yeah,
and it is pretty neat. You walk in, you kind of you can pick things up, you can set it back down, and it is able to determine exactly what it is that you've actually picked up and have on your person as you take out. There's no checkout process. You can pay with your palm, like that kind of thing.
Was that they have something where it's like you actually put it in your skin? Or am I
haven't heard that. No, I don't know. I'm not saying that it didn't happen, but in my experience, I certainly don't have a chip in me, and I was able to pay for things through
That's what
through
a
Amazon,
dude with a chip in him would say, brother. You know?
Fair enough. Yeah. I'm interested to see where it all goes, to be honest with you. We're in a very interesting time right now, where you've probably seen this on a lot of software out there. It all says powered by AI. So that's like, again, like you've got mail. We're in this powered by AI bubble. Eventually, nobody's going to say it's powered by AI because everything will be. It's just like ubiquitous. So.
And there's a lot of stuff right now outside of ChatGPT and some other things. Like it's just not there yet. Like when a lot of, because I mean, I look at like I have some software that does have that powered by AI, and then it'll be like, oh, use our AI wizard to fill this in, and then you do it, and I'm like, oh, this is dog shit. You guys are going backwards with it. Or even with like video editing, there's tons of AI editing software right now, but it's just not there. Like it's if ChatGPT is at 90%, it's at like 65.
Sure.
I feel like with a lot of it. But it is going to be a thing. I mean, I still even use it with like auto caption generates and puts in the style and everything. It's all just improving. And I take your approach to it and I mean, you're probably the one who convinced me, was just use it as a tool, learn as much as you can about AI and just play with it. You know,
it's worth the $20. That's for sure.
No, it saves me a lot of time with my business and just even personal life. Like you were showing me before that you can go on there with Kayak and it can book your vacation for you. It's crazy to me that a vacation booker was like a job before, where you would go to this weird little
travel agencies.
That's wild.
They're
like, let me mark up 20% on something you could have figured out.
I still know some people that use those services just because they don't want to think about it at all, and they have enough disposable income that they just don't even think about it. They don't even look at the price tags. They're just like, send it. Just get it together to me. Tell me when to show up to the airport. So I think that some of that will still exist. But I mean, that's a good point. That's probably one of the first jobs that are going by the wayside.
Those kind of people that you just described are the best clients in the world.
Aren't they?
Oh, just they don't care. They want it done. They understand budget, and they just go, you know what? Send it.
Exactly.
Is it going to get done? I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to even think about it. Get it done.
Yeah.
That's my favorite. That's the level I hope to get to one time with like things that I just don't enjoy doing. Just being like, I'll pick something.
You got A, B, and C level activities. Just just focus on your A's.
Yeah.
And outsource everything else.
Ooh, I love that. I do love talking optimization with people, and I feel like you're a very optimized person.
Oh, I love optimization. I love automation, and that's why I'm just so intrigued by all of this. It's again just such an interesting time, Evan.
Is there anything in your life that you like? What are some of the first things you outsourced in your personal life? Do you have anything?
My personal life? Well, I don't like cleaning. So
you got married? No, I'm just kidding.
Let's see.
Do you have a cleaning service?
I did for a while after having a little kiddo. We don't. It's perpetually dirty. So, but we did for a while. And I like to keep my cars clean, but I don't necessarily like to take the time to do that. So there's these like mobile services that will come out and clean your car for you. So I did that for a while. And I haven't mowed my lawn in years. So definitely outsource those kind of things. And I understand, like, not everybody can do that. So I definitely feel blessed in that regard. But I just,
those are pretty modest ones,
I feel like if you can really focus on what is making you money and just focus on that, then it really, you'll find that everything else will just kind of take care of itself.
Yeah.
Because you're not as worried about all the minutia, because you're just focusing on what matters, and that what matters may be different to different people. You know, some A-level activities for some people may be making money, others may be spending time in nature or with family. And if that's what's important to you, then absolutely, like, just focus on those things.
Yeah. What is it? The 80-20 rule? Do you follow that at all?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
You would, dude. I could see it.
Very mathematically driven. So, I definitely, focus. Yeah. I mean, the 80-20 rule is a great methodology to kind of operate by.
Did you run into were you always this way growing up, where you're optimized and like you always have been kind of wired this way?
When I was young, when I was a teenager, I was wilding out a little bit.
Really?
Yeah. So back then, no, not really. I was just so focused on having a good time that, the rest of everything didn't matter. But as I kind of got into adulthood, I was working a job that I was just making like peanuts at. And I was like, well, this is not sustainable. I wanted to buy a house. This is like back in 2008 when the
housing
crisis was happening. And I'm like, how can I buy a property if I'm not making any money? So that's when I was like, okay, how can I optimize this? And,
and how old were you at this time?
At that time I was 20. I had been living in an apartment for a couple years. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And then that's when you made a master plan to be like, I'm going to get rich and buy a house and do all these things.
Yeah. Well, I mean, rich is subjective. Yeah. I definitely wanted to have a plan of action. I'm very lucky to have such a supportive girlfriend at the time who became my wife, because there was a point in time where I was making a good salary working as a developer. But oh my God, I was a code monkey, and it was just, it was soul crushing, to be honest. So we were down at the Greenbelt here in Austin, and my wife met me for lunch, and we were eating, and I was just telling her how miserable I was. And I had already had the thought that I wanted to go work for myself and start a business. And I distinctly remember her saying, well, if you're not happy with what you're doing, quit. Do what makes you happy. And she was able to support us during that period of time, because, I lost my income and I started from scratch, didn't have anything while I was getting the business up and running. So I remember, posting on Craigslist at the time and wondering, I thought the phone was just going to start ringing off the hook. That did not happen. So, I'm going around the house, just trying to be productive around the house, because I felt like I needed to do something.
Yeah.
And then, fast forward many years later, I was able to build the business to where I was able to replace my income. And then she was working at Apple at the time, and I was able to kind of reciprocate. And she wanted to do something else. She wanted to work on her own business as well. So we flipped the script, and I supported us while she kind of got her thing going. And fast forward several years later again, and she's got a very successful business herself. So I think that having a support structure is a foundational part of that optimization that we're talking about.
Yeah. And she has a temporary tattoo business, right?
Yeah. It's called Nature Tats.
Shout out Nature Tats, dude.
It's the water-based tattoos that we used to have as kids, little like clip art looking things. But she makes them look like they're all nature inspired, and they look like real tattoos. So that's awesome. They're a lot of fun. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to order some, put some on my neck or something.
Yeah. We're selling wholesale now, so she's got hundreds of stores across the country
awesome.
that are carrying the product, and they're a lot of fun.
Wow, that's awesome. I love to hear that when you hear about a couple, because you mentioned earlier that you guys have been together for 17 years.
17 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love to see people who grew up together in a relationship,
Yeah.
because you date in that time period, if you're now in your mid 30s, about 4 different people, I feel.
Yep.
You know, because you go through all these life changes. Everybody has to. I feel like you have to grow at some point
Exactly.
in those pivotal years, and you go through different stages where you're a different person and this is happening. And to get to the point where you guys are at and you're both successful in your own right, in your own business, and doing the things you love, it's beautiful to see. And to be successful in the things you love, but also part of that success is that you help the other person, you know, like a relationship is never 50-50, I feel.
Yeah, no.
There's always got to be flow and everything.
Absolutely. I mean, sometimes somebody, your partner may be at 10%, so you're kind of picking up 90, but that will always flip. So if you're just okay with the fact that, you know, covering and not expecting a 50-50, I feel like that's kind of how you make it work. But yeah, it's very gratifying to be able to help anybody, but especially when you're building a life together, to be able to help each other through the ups and the downs, because there's always going to be both. It's always up and down. But it's really gratifying on the other end when you can like look back and be like, well, look what we did. Yeah. And now to have a little one that we brought into the world. And that's really special too. So
man, that's amazing. Similar thing, being with my girl is that, I mean, I always love thinking back to like our first dates where like I'm still living with my parents because I decided after nursing school that I don't want to be a nurse and I'm going to go chase all these crazy dreams. Our dates would be watching a movie on a 13-inch laptop, eating 99-cent bean and cheese burritos, and just like this struggle, you know, of just like, we're broke, we're going to figure this shit out. Then moving into the first place together, just debt after debt of credit cards, and then trying to figure it out. And then when you start seeing some kind of success, you're just like, holy shit, look what we fucking did.
Exactly.
And to share that with someone is the best part of life, I feel.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. We very similarly, my first apartment, it was a struggle. And so, we ended up living with my parents, my girlfriend / wife now. We lived with my parents for 6 months. And, there was a point in time during that where we kind of hit what I call rock bottom, because, before we had started our businesses and, you know, before all of that had happened, I was working that job that, you know, wasn't making very much, but at least it was something. Well, that job came to an end, and my wife was also out of work. So we went to the 360 bridge here. I don't know if have you been there?
You guys were about to jump?
No. I realized that could be what I was going.
We went to the bridge. We were both there. I haven't
there's
been
like
to 360.
So 360 bridge, there's like this little hike that you can do to get onto the overlook, and we had gone there. It's a real special, very romantic place. You should take your wife there sometime. But anyway, we went there to just kind of talk about what we were going to do, because you know, we had both just lost our income. While we were there, this really beat up truck pulls up next to our car, and it's pretty late at night. We're the only ones there. And they hop out of their car, they flash a flashlight in the car and see my wife's purse. They smash the window, take the last couple $100 that we had left with her in her purse, had her, all of her identification stuff in there. So on top of losing our incomes, we also got robbed in front of our eyes.
Damn.
And then, we called the cops, and of course they weren't able to do anything because they'd already left. So it was just something that happened to us. So we kind of had to rebuild from there, from like having absolutely nothing, but to still, like, even though I'm living with my parents at the time, to have each other and have that trust in each other and being able to build up on that was pretty special, especially now looking back where we're at now. So.
Man. Yeah. And that's like the thing is there are going to be highs and there are going to be lows.
Certainly.
And in a relationship, like I think everybody just thinks it's always, oh, you're in a relationship. Oh, that's so lucky that you have that at home. I'm like, motherfucker, this shit is hard.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got to work on it,
man.
you know?
Yeah.
When I always hear from older couples, like when I hear people who have been together for like 40 years or 50 years, I'm like, what is the secret? They're just like, be nice to each other and don't quit.
Yeah.
They're like, because if you have the idea of like not quitting, you'll find a solution, you know? But it's like, that's the other thing with technology and everything, to segue back into it. So much instant gratification with Tinder and all these dating apps and everything.
Right. Yep.
There's so many options where I feel like people don't dive as deep into a relationship because they go, that's a lot. I'm just going to go back to this. I got the whole pool out here.
Yeah.
And they're just build-a-bearing their perfect soulmate that never exists.
Man, I've never heard that before. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, it's build-a-bearing a soulmate, dude. Because that's what people start describing what they want.
Right.
And it comes down to, I'm like, you can't get all of that. You're chasing what you think the internet is showing you. And the grass is always greener on the other side. And you've built fantasies of people online and whatever. So you're chasing something. Like, remember when everybody was talking about Will Smith and Jada as goals? I don't know if you saw that whole era of they were couple goals. They're one of the worst couples there ever was. It's coming out as, you know?
Yeah, especially after that slap and everything.
Yeah, she's a demon, dude. She's a demon. She ruined Will Smith. But for so long, everybody thought they were what a couple is. Sorry, my computer making money right now. They are what people thought you wanted in a relationship when it was like, no, like, I think you want that. I mean, I'm on a soapbox now, but like something real, and you want something that doesn't have to be this crazy thing on social media.
Exactly.
I always look at the couples when they start posting a lot about their significant other and everything. I'm like, what did you do? How did you fuck up to where now you're doing this? You know, or a joint Facebook account. That was always the thing. I'm like, oh boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting, man.
Yeah. Yeah. To be honest, I'm glad I'm just not, because Tinder wasn't a thing back when we got together. You know, I remember she was in my top 8 on MySpace. Showing my age a little bit. But yeah, so those dating apps didn't exist, and to be honest, like it just seems like a lot of work. It seems very exhausting going through those kind of apps. And while it seems fun, obviously, it also seems equally exhausting, and also it does feel like it really creates this like the grass is always greener mentality, which can be dangerous when like if you find somebody that you really connect with and you can build a life with, like. You may be more likely to say, well, let me just keep exploring. Yeah. When you could have been further ahead if you were making it work with the one. Yeah. But you might not know it's the one. So I don't know.
Yeah. It's there's a lot of stuff that I realized I was chasing a lot of things when I was younger because I didn't want to face having to grow up or deal with my own things. If you're always in the honeymoon phase of a relationship, they never get close enough to you, and you never get deep enough to where you start exposing the real things and the stuff that you actually have to deal with. You just go, nah, dude, she's fucking crazy. I'm out of here, dude. Yeah, exactly. You know? And that's what I think is what is exciting about a new relationship and jumping like these, you know, just different experiences one after the other. Yeah. And it seems like dating online and just like the technology of that, like that's something that wasn't around before. Yeah. You know, you had a couple options in the village and you just had to make it work. Yeah. You're like, well, she does know how to milk a goat. Yeah. And there's no innuendo in that, but you know, I would assume that is a secondary skill of milking if you just, anyway. But there weren't that many options, and it was like you just work with what you got. Yeah. Like, you know, I have a bit about like how funny would it be to see someone dating during the Depression, see someone complain about dating now. Oh yeah. Like it's just such a contrast of what is important in life. Right. And I don't know what that's going to mean for, I don't know if this is just a turbulent time in life where we're adapting to all the technological advances, especially when they start integrating with human needs. like dating and finding a partner. Because I don't know, there's always these arguments about, are we, I'm sure you've read the book, Sex at Dawn.
Nope.
It was an old school Joe Rogan guy. He used to always be on there. But it was about, are we supposed to be monogamous? Are we, are like just the way humans evolved? Are we supposed to be with just one person? Is it a construct? What's the most beneficial for a tribe? And it was this book that explored, and it was kind of like caveman times and everything, and just like certain genetic things that lean towards that we weren't supposed to be monogamous. But I don't know if it's been debunked or whatever. But I don't know how it plays out. As technology advances, are we going to keep having a harder time?
I think it probably will complicate things.
Yeah.
Because there's just more moving parts. Like when you're in the village that you were mentioning, you do only have a few options. And sometimes, your parents may even make the decision for you. Like, you're going to be with this person. That's just it. And then those people stay together forever and have kids and perpetuate the human race. But I think that technology does add more variables. And because of that, it inherently makes it more complicated and difficult. Yeah. So, I don't know. I don't know what that looks like for the future. I want everybody to be able to find their person, right? Cause it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. I think about that with AI because you start looking, I don't know if you follow OnlyFans at all. But one of the things that happen on there is they are having all these AI bots now, where they're not real people.
Yep.
And obviously there's a couple things that are spearheading into each other, and you're seeing the AI technology and the sex robots are going to eventually meet down the road. All right.
For sure.
And when these are self-learning AI and they start learning how to talk to you and listening to you about your day and swooning over you and just know what makes you happy, and they have an objective to make you happy, that's going to throw even more complications into our species, because they're saying right now that there's an epidemic of loneliness, that people aren't going out to make friends, to hang out. There's, the days of kids only having a bicycle and be like, I'm gonna go find neighborhood kids to play with until the street lights come on, and then I'm gonna go home. Like those days are gone. And now everybody's on their phone. They're playing games online. Yeah. I always think the internet and like gaming is like diet life. Like it's not completely the same thing. It's good, but like I think social media isn't really social. Like it's like, you're connected, you're getting all these likes and all this stuff, but it doesn't do anything for you.
It's very artificial.
And very artificial. Exactly. And it's like no post that you have or everybody comments on it and blah, 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 congratulations, is the same as going out to a dinner with a group of friends and just having a great night.
Yep.
Does nothing for the fulfillment. But it's like you match that with serial dating online, social media, all of this stuff. The birth rate has to be declining.
Oh, it absolutely is. Yeah.
And then you see on top of that now we're starting to have AI sex bots. Eventually, I know they're not there yet. I mean, I don't know personally, but I'm sure that's going to also have an effect on us.
Absolutely. Because like if you have an AI bot that is trained to just like press all your buttons in the right way,
giggity,
then how are you supposed to, like, how is any human supposed to compete with that? Because they're not mind readers. They don't they're not an AI trained model.
Yeah.
But yeah, that exact thing is happening. I mean, there are a lot of influencers online that, and Instagram has been plagued with this for a long time of like, getting the right angle and everything's photoshopped and blah, 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 blah. But now to like have AI influencers that all of it's just AI generated, but people are still being like, oh man, wouldn't it be cool to like be in New Zealand to like taking these pictures on this volcano? That's like, you can't compare yourself to these things because they're literally not real.
Yeah.
So I do see a world in which, I mean, the chat bots for, girlfriends and boyfriends already exist. And there's a lot of like privacy concerns that are coming because people are being incredibly open with these bots. So it's raising some privacy concerns, and also it's training those models further on just like what's going on in people's heads. So I can see a world where, OnlyFans and sex robots are converging to make our lives, for some people, I mean, sure, that's fun. But it's not going to help you find true love in the real world. Because, it's all fake.
I don't know if you've seen this stuff with China about how the birth rate is declining so much that I think in like 2 generations, China's going to have a huge issue with their society and economy in general because of the low birth rate.
Well, that's actually, that's something that's happening kind of globally. Because for a long time, I mean, we were just shooting up, and we're at like, what, 7-8 billion people now? Where not even that long ago, it was 6 billion. So we went up, but now it is starting to, there are certain countries, I've heard that about China, but I know that Japan is really struggling with it. Japan is like just not having babies. And
well, they had a law for a while, right? Was it Japan or China?
I think it was China that had the law. I could be wrong about that. Don't quote me, but yeah, so that is absolutely going to be problematic. And I can't help but think about like the movie Idiocracy when I start thinking about this kind of thing, where like, and I waited a long time to have a kid. I've been with my wife, like we said, for 17 years total between dating and being married, and we had a kid 6 months ago. So it's and that's just one. I have a lot of friends, a lot of my buddies that I went to high school with who are also in their mid-30s. I mean, there's not even kids in the horizon at all. They're not thinking about it. They don't want to have kids. A lot of people are making that conscious decision. I just watched this thing the other day. It was talking about, between inflation and just healthcare and everything, our parents that were able to afford a house and have 3 kids, that's not the world we live in. I mean, it is an expensive endeavor to have children. And if you're also trying to like maintain financial stability with having 6 months of savings and trying to find things to invest in, how are you supposed to do that when your bank account is being drained from having kids? So I think that people are making a conscious effort to not have children, which is going to contribute to the fundamental problem of just a population crisis at some point in the future. We're not going to be dealing with that, but it will definitely be a problem for multiple countries. And I don't know, maybe they start creating incentives because
baby making incentives.
Exactly. Like there's like the earned income credit or something. Like you get a small tax break for having children. But if they made that more incentivizing and they wanted to really get people to have children, I feel like
a UBI
that's exactly right. And that's where I was going with this is I think that the UBI is going to have to be something that just happens because, when you have Tesla semi trucks that are regulated and they're out in full force, and you erase like a third of the population's jobs because you just erased truck drivers as a job, like what are those people going to do? Like it's impossible to just instantly transition. So we need some kind of buffer. So I do believe that UBI will be something that has to happen, but through that same kind of avenue, doing something like that to help people, to give them incentive to have babies. And not everybody can have children. Sometimes there's reasons to why they can't, but there's other methods. There's a lot of kids that need adopting and orphans and stuff like that. So but anyway, I don't know what the world looks like. Like if a place like Japan is on the same trajectory and they're going to have a population crisis, I'm a pilot in training. And right now in the aviation industry, there is a shortage of pilots because all the pilots that kind of grew up and like went to the military and did that, they're all retiring. So the amount of pilots is like on the decline.
It's come to a crash landing.
So I think that those kind of problems, like that's the first that we're going to see it, right? Is like jobs that aren't being fulfilled because you just don't have people that are able to fulfill them.
Right.
That's just going to get worse and worse if your population is steadily declining.
Right.
And then what does that look like for like social services, like Social Security and stuff like that? If you don't have as many people paying into it, there's not enough resources to go around to support all the folks that are getting older. So I feel like it's a domino effect, unfortunately, that is just can get worse and worse unless it gets addressed earlier.
And what sucks is that I feel like we're in this world where we're not really looking to the future, and governments are making decisions for the now and for their own incentive rather than even the incentive of the people.
Sure.
So it's like, I don't think those are going to get addressed, and it's going to get worse before it gets better, unless all this automation, because that's the other side, is like, is it a fluctuation that's going to naturally happen because of technology where there's less jobs available? So we can kind of put a Band-Aid on it because we have structures in place with automation that can make up for it in some capacity?
Well, I think so. And that's why I think that like there's going to be so much efficiency that is created through AI, and there are going to be jobs that are lost. But because we can be so efficient, it's not even just like on like writing better, coming up with jokes, or kind of using AI on a fundamental level. Like the government should be using this to their advantage to be as streamlined as possible. Like you were talking about Ukraine earlier, like how are we accidentally overpaying by $1 billion? How do we lose jets that cost millions and millions of dollars? I just don't understand how that happens. Meanwhile, in Maui, half of it burned to the ground, and like the government took forever. I don't even know if they've even sent money yet. Like you've got The Rock coming in and stepping up and creating a foundation to actually help these people. Shouldn't our government be doing that? I mean, that's what they're here for. They're supposed to be here for the people, but it really seems that they've kind of got their own agenda out for themselves.
Yeah.
So I think that AI should be used as much as possible for the better of humanity. And I think that there's a lot of ways that haven't yet been discovered because AI is so new. I have a business partner that is working on utilizing AI to bring more of a human connection. So if you're able to use AI for purposes like that, so you're not as disconnected and as artificial, I think that use cases like that could be pretty good for artificial intelligence.
That's amazing. If to come up with a system, I think about it, and it probably will be the next generation that will, I think there's a lot of crypt keepers in the government right now that are stock trading and doing all these things that they're just lining their own pockets. It's insane that you have people who are public servants that are just multimillionaires off of like a very modest salary.
Right.
No,
that happened.
I don't know how that happened, dude. You're all busy serving the people, but you're one of the best stock traders in the world. And that's would be nice is to take human emotion out of it. And that I think one of the biggest human emotions that is in politics is greed and, an ego and just all these things that are counterintuitive to actually for the people.
Right.
And if there was some kind of AI that was implemented, like I look at someone like Musk, who I'm like, I think he actually has, and I could be wrong, a desire to do what's best for the people. I do have, I feel that. I don't know if you know him better than I do.
I mean, I wish I knew Musk, but you don't set out to start a space agency with the idea to get to a different planet if you're not trying to like, that dude is sitting down losing sleep at night because he's worried about like Earth and like this one small vessel, and like there's no redundancy there. So like, what do we do if we get hit like by a comet? So like, you don't create a whole space agency if you're not looking out for the people. I know that there's a lot of people that like Musk and a lot of people that don't like him.
Yeah.
But I do think that he is out there trying to do right by people for sure.
Yeah, I've made fun of him a lot on the podcast in the Musketeers. It gets him riled up. I just think he's a dork, and that he's actually I think he's a brilliant mind, obviously. And I would love to see someone like him or that caliber implement we need to entrust somebody with the idea of creating a system that does prioritize like a hierarchy of needs of what we should focus on as a country.
Yeah.
And then we just refer to it and just be like, look, this is we ran all the numbers of our entire society and our economy. We need to do this now. And this, prioritize this, and this will take care of that issue. Prioritize that and this. But it's like everything's backwards.
Yeah, every once in a while, I have like an existential crisis of like, are we in a simulation? You're like looking at the stars and you're like, you start tripping on that. And
do you think we are?
I think if we are in a simulation, man, it sure feels real.
Whoa. Yeah.
But we can use that to our advantage, when we're trying to make decisions on a governmental level that can have like profound consequences for the people in our country or across, national lines. Wouldn't it be good to run simulations, have artificial intelligence run like if this, then that, and you run just thousands and thousands and thousands of scenarios and then have it spit back, this is what is best based on the current state of affairs with relationships with other countries, and this is what is going to be the most impactful for the benefit of everybody. And then the government's going to have to make the choice on whether or not they want to move forward with that. But I think that running simulations and having data to back any decision that you make makes sense. And right now it feels like we're kind of willy-nilly. So we should be running some simulations, and hopefully we're not actually in a simulation. Hopefully we're not one of those.
Well, that's what's like mind breaking, is to think of that idea that we are one of the simulations that someone's just running. Because whenever I think of like the simulation theory, I always think, oh, you're on vacation from the real world and you're playing this sim.
Right.
And I'm someone's sim. Dude, what a shitty gig they got, dude. They're like, I picked the wrong dude. But that idea is crazy, to be like, oh, let's see what happens. And it's like, is it aliens? If you think there's a simulation, do you think do you believe in aliens, first of all?
Oh my God. If I could, I wish I could use AI to determine how many hours I have sunk into the show Ancient Aliens.
Really?
Yeah.
Go deep.
I think that, maybe I'm off base here, but I just think the universe is infinitely expanding, and mathematically it does not make sense that there is not some kind of intelligent life somewhere out there. Just because we can't see it, even though we have great technology to see a decent away with all our telescopes and stuff, I believe in aliens for sure.
It's almost like the idea of there's creatures in the bottom of the ocean, just little plankton and stuff, that have no idea of our existence.
Exactly.
And we're in a different universe than them.
Yep.
And I think about that a lot with like ultraviolet rays and stuff that's around us. Even Wi-Fi. You're like, we know it's there and around us, but we can't see it.
Right.
And if someone did not know about it, they would have zero idea it's there. And that could be alien. And I think about aliens could be, this is my theory on aliens, possibly. I'm not married to this. Aliens could be us from the future.
Yes.
From that's what I think, is that, something that evolved, something that could have been wiped out. It could be that there's just so many other Earths that made it through different periods that, it could be as simple as like, okay, if you grow this bacteria, you put this on food, mold grows from it. And we could be the mold, and there's just so much mold around the universe on different versions of our planet.
Exactly.
Because an infinite expanding universe, you can't even wrap your head around.
No, it's impossible.
even the scales of like planet by planet by planet, and then you see the cosmos and everything, and you're just like, no, I can't even comprehend what that is.
Yeah. I hope that I'm in the era in which the aliens come to visit, so I can just be like, I knew it.
Yeah.
Knew it.
Take me with you. Yeah. Experiment on me. Get weird.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll leave that to you, Evan.
All right, thank you. Dude, that is, I asked my wife this, is if the aliens landed and they were like, okay, we're going to kind of integrate and we're going to take a few of you with us and you're going to travel the universe, but you can never come back here. Would you do it? And I asked my wife that. She's like, no. And I'm like, I'll see you later. I'll send a postcard.
Yeah.
But I would tell her, I'd be like, no, you're coming with me. Like, let's go. Like, would you give up your life on Earth to just blip to experience the rest of the known universe?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, life is cool on Earth, but like you're just seeing this much of the universe. If I could jump on a vessel with aliens and go explore the universe, I would take that up in a heartbeat. And I guarantee you my wife would be there with me.
Yeah.
I would absolutely do that. I like the thought of that, actually.
Yeah. It's such a warm thought of just being like, just to go get a glimpse behind the curtains.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, that Incubus song that talks about, watching the earth come up.
Yeah.
Like, what a thought to be in outer space. It's kind of a bucket list item of mine now that commercial flights or rocket ships to space, even if you're just orbiting for a while and can kind of see the earth from a different perspective. That would be, I feel like William Shatner went up in oh my God, Bezos's little penis rocket.
Yeah.
And when he came back down, man, he was having a hard time because like he was having like an existential crisis. Because like when you see the world from that view, I would imagine it kind of makes you feel small because you realize like, oh shit, we all 8 billion of us live on this little rock that you can see.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where like Musk stays up at night and he's like, oh my God, like let's get these Dragon rocket ships working properly so we can get to where we need to be.
Yeah.
And I think that we probably will in our lifetime see a frontier of us creating, lunar bases or even a base on Mars. But because of the time now that it takes to travel from here to Mars and just the resources, like that's a life commitment. You're like, you're going to be like one of the doctors or engineers that are selected to just go over there, but you're going to be signing waivers saying like, you're probably not coming back to Earth.
Yeah.
And man, what kind of like, I mean, it was, we had some pioneers when we were sailing across the ocean to come to a new world.
Yeah.
What is like to extrapolate that to going to a different planet? Like those are some ballsy motherfuckers to say, I'm out. I'm gonna go live on another planet.
Well, it's like you almost think like, oh, that's such a even more crazy thing because there's no air. You like have to rely on these systems. But then at the time when they were traveling the world to find a new world, they thought you would fall off the map. They thought that there was giant sea monsters and all this stuff. So it's like equally fearful, but it's like in our DNA to expand. And it is like, there's the stoned ape theory and all this stuff of just like what we learned from mushrooms and the evolution. And it's always been in us to like grow and expand and, look for new worlds. And that's what I'm excited about is when you start seeing like even the words new frontier and part of that, I might, if they needed me for some reason, they're like, someone should tell jokes up here. I might be like, all right, I'll do it,
Count me in.
Yeah. Because it really is like, I think that's in the human DNA is to explore.
Yeah.
It's wild to think of establishing out of the planet.
Yeah. I'd be about it, but I would definitely jump on that spaceship with aliens for sure.
Yeah.
Count me in on that. Like seeing warp speed, that'd be pretty
cool. Stuff you couldn't even comprehend. Like, and that's the thing. They probably would rid you of so many of your base needs and just be like, nah, we don't have all that stuff up here. Like you're going to be some form of AI. Like you would almost convert, I feel like, I don't know. Unless they were like, let's just keep you in this human form to see how you adapt to all of this, which, yeah, because if you think about like that, where they're just like, okay, humans have violence, they have greed, they have jealousy, they have insecure, they have all these things. It's almost like when you know somebody, it's almost like a coyote in the hen house. You're like, we can't bring them around here. This wild dog, we can't bring inside.
Yeah,
we have small children. Yeah. So they're like, we kind of got to nuke them a little bit. You got to take this pill.
Yeah,
you know,
that's why they've been watching us for so long. They're like studying. They're like, they just nuked each other. They need at least another 10,000 years. Like, well, if they don't wipe themselves out before then.
Yeah. Well, isn't that the theory of because with Rogan's Club in Austin, there's the Fat Man and Little Boy. Are the name of the rooms.
Yeah. I haven't been there yet, but
it's amazing.
I've seen that. Yeah.
They have them named after the nukes because I think that was when it was the rumor that aliens first started visiting us.
Interesting.
Was when we dropped those nukes because if there are aliens, came on their radar at that time is the theory because they're like, oh, they have nuclear technology. Now we need to keep an eye on them because now these monkeys. They didn't just leave the Stone Age. Now they got guns.
Yeah.
You know, and that is the idea is like, are they watching us now because we're starting to hit a different point where they're like, I don't know about y'all. Y'all are actually starting to build stuff. And I don't know. Do you think they would reveal themselves?
I think if they did, it would be a very calculated thing that they're doing. They're not just going to willy-nilly just show up. And I think that it would probably be behind closed doors to start. They would very much just like, I don't think they would just show up because they understand the human emotion and psyche. And they realize that if they just show up in a mothership like Independence Day,
we're gonna attack.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So and that's not a good way to start a relationship, right? So I think that it would start pretty casual, but a lot of this disclosure stuff that's been happening over the last few years, I feel like they're there, man. They got to be there, and I feel like they're just trying to like ease us into it because like they don't want to cause hysteria. So but man, I want to believe. I want to believe.
Because it would just be so nice to realize someone else could possibly be in the driving seat that isn't one of us. That is. Because I think that's what, it would be a beautiful story if they came down with all these things that just help like our society.
Absolutely.
And then we would be like, oh, thank you guys. Like, you know, this is dope. Thank you for fixing all these issues that we've created.
Absolutely. You know, I never really thought about this, but I think that if they did that, like we wouldn't be at each other's throats anymore. Like all this like foreign relationships. If we realize that there's like another intelligent species out there, we would all be like, okay, well maybe we should just put our differences aside and let's work together as the human race to push forward.
Team Earth.
So Team Earth.
Yeah. That's always the idea. Cause I grew up boxing and stuff in like a small town, and there was always, you didn't want to spar or train with the people who had no dream or view of leaving the hometown to compete or take it serious. Cause every time you spar with them, that was the most important thing right there, was beating you up.
Exactly.
And that's like how it would be with Earth is we would be like, oh,
that's a good point.
If it's just us, I guess we should fight over the stake, is like what the mindset is of like, oh, we need to preserve all the resources we have because this is all of it.
Right.
But if an alien stepped in and was like, here, this will completely 10x all of your resources and this will 20x down all your needs,
right?
Which would be insane. That'd be the way to do it if the aliens are listening to this. I had another point and thought to that, but it's left me.
It's really fun to think about those kind of things. Just think about, are we alone? And I have a buddy who super intelligent, but years ago we had this discussion. He's like, do you believe in aliens? And I was like, hell yeah, I do. And he's like, he like looked at me like I was less than. He's like, you're ridiculous. Like, there's not aliens. And I brought up all the same points. And now fast forward to now, he's like, we're definitely not alone. They're definitely out there. And now he's like, he'll be like chilling, and he's way down the like simulation rabbit hole right now, and talking about, different dimensions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to watch people kind of make that transition and make a realization, whether it was intentional or not, to start thinking about those kind of things. And I think it's kind of closed-minded, in my opinion, to think that we are alone. Like I feel like that's part of the human element that we kind of got wrong. And that is that we're just so self-centered that we think what we know in this moment is fact. Like, for instance, the world was flat, and that everybody believed that. And then we've come to find out that is not the case. Yeah. At least for most people, they found out.
Some people still out there, brother. Squinting.
Yeah. So, so what do we not know now that, like, we have all these laws of physics? What kind of like law breaking can we do that we just don't understand yet? Going through black holes and stuff like that, or wormholes, or traveling at light speed, things that we don't currently have the technology for. It doesn't mean it's impossible. It just means that we haven't figured it out yet. So if some alien race were to show up, it'd be pretty cool to like reverse engineer and be like, oh, that's how you're doing it. You're doing this, and you're tweaking these laws of physics to your advantage to go light speed or travel across the universe. Because it'd be pretty cool. Like, if you brought up GPS to somebody who was riding horses in the 1800s, and you're like, yeah, if you weren't born now and you were born in the future, I could just go to Waze and plug in this thing and then like brain dead drive my automobile to the location that I'm going. That would blow their minds. They would not be able to like comprehend that being a thing. If you could do that same kind of thing and just have like a universe GPS where you could be like, I want to go to like Andromeda, and you just plug in that GPS and then through space. Like what a thought. And who's to say that's not possible? We don't have the technology now, but I mean, if you look at technology 100 years ago compared to today, like, I don't know when the light bulb was created, but it wasn't all that long ago on a relative scale. Yeah. So to think about going from the light bulb to artificial intelligence in 2024, where are we going to be in 2200? Where are we going to be in 2300? I wish I could be around to see that.
We never know, brother.
Yeah.
Because that's part of it also, is the time travel aspect of it, of our understanding of time and what could possibly be possible.
Right.
Like even when they talk about traveling at, the speed of light in different parts of the universe, that your watch will change and it even gets off like a fragment of a second.
Yep.
If we're able to do that now, what is that? It might not even be like, oh, you think of time travel in the or Back to the Future situation, but it's like, it might just be something that we can't even begin to comprehend. I remember my point I was going to say is the idea of ancient civilizations. Like, when you look at the pyramids and things like that, of who helped with the technology,
right,
for things like that, were those gifts that were given to the people.
Exactly. Yeah. And you see a lot of the hieroglyphs showing like birds and things that look like planes or spaceships and stuff. I think there's just too many coincidences to not think that we may have been visited at some point in the past, but we didn't have the technology to really document it for us in modern day to realize that, this was a thing.
Some dude was like, dude, I gotta draw this shit real quick. People aren't gonna believe this fucking bird that showed up with this.
Yeah. And now we're like, what does it mean? What does it mean?
We're trying to decipher what all of it is. And even when they still can't prove how the pyramids were, some of these parts were shaped and traveled and moved and everything. If I was thinking about that it would be some kind of wind turbine. They had to have had some kind of technology with wind that they were able to maneuver somehow these sails, some kind of, I don't know. I don't have the brain for it, but it's fascinating, man.
Yeah. I would love to see the Great Pyramids someday. because it is so fascinating. But there's places all over the world, like in Peru. Gosh, oh my gosh, it's slipping my mind. Machu Picchu.
Yeah, man.
I would love to see that.
Yeah.
Like, and some of these things, like, you know, the Great Pyramids, kind of like directly correlating to like Orion's belt, like the way that they're set up, like that is not by accident. It just can't be. So, and then some of these things, like if you look at them from like a worldview, like they're all kind of equidistant, and it's very interesting. Very interesting.
It's going to be crazy in the days of technology, because that's going to be, I know this podcast, we started off with a lot of my stupid brain asking about the doom and gloom of AI, but there's going to be an ability to travel to all these places in the world, and you're with a headset on and you can't tell the difference.
Yeah.
And you're literally there experiencing it.
Right.
And there's going to be a point where kids are just like, you used to have to actually get on a plane and travel 30 hours to actually go see that. And I can just blip to the other side of the planet.
Exactly.
It's amazing, man. I'm excited for the future now. You've changed my mind about everything. You know? Man.
Good.
Thank you for doing the podcast.
Yeah,
I appreciate you. You should definitely do your own podcast. I don't know if that's in the landscape.
You know, this is my first time doing this kind of thing, but it was fun. So I might have to just do that.
And if you guys ever need any IT, reach out to Zach. We'll put the link for his website in the bio, and we'll put the tattoos also. I don't think we'll buy direct.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Certainly.
Zach, thank you very much for doing the podcast.
Happy to do it, man. It was fun.
Everybody
Thanks,
else, we love you. Bye.
See ya.